Have you ever drunk an Israeli whiskey? Well, I hadn't until about 2 days ago, and I'm bloody glad I did, but it's not that simple. Welcome back, Dram Fam, to the Whisky Diary. The bottle I'm reviewing today is a little bit out there for me. I don't usually review higher priced whiskies, and by that I mean, above £60. That's not usually where I find a lot of value in whiskey. But this came about, and I got it for a bit of a discount because I had some coupons available to use, and I've tried it and it has absolutely blown me away in ways I just did not expect. As some of you may have guessed by now, I am of course talking about a whiskey from the Milk and Honey distillery. It is a distillery that's based in Tel Aviv in Israel. I knew absolutely nothing about this distillery until I heard the name floating about. It's not a very common name, Milk and Honey. Heard a few people mention it. Quite a few people mentioned that the liquid is quite good. And I hadn't really had the opportunity to buy one. It wasn't necessarily something I'm going to go out of my way and purchase. It's something that if I happen to see it for a reasonable price, I'll have a look and I may or may not pick up a bottle. And this is one of those cases where I did just that, and I'm absolutely over the moon that I did. Let's get into the review. This is the Milk and Honey Apex Pomegranate. This is of course distilled and bottled by the Milk and Honey distillery. This particular bottling is from their Apex series. It is a no age statement whiskey. This particular bottle is bottled up at 59.5%. It comes in a 700ml bottle, or 70 centilitres. It is unchill filtered. It is presented in all natural colour. It is completely unpeated. Now, this does have a distillation date of February 2018 and a bottling date of April 2021. So this is 3 years and 2 months old. And for natural colour, that's pretty mad. Of course, I don't usually comment on the colour of a whiskey, but yeah. This is some dark stuff, and you'd be very surprised by something that is only 3 years and 2 months old. It was initially aged in bourbon for what I would assume is 2.5 years, and then it spent its last 6 months in a pomegranate wine cask, which is incredibly interesting because, as you all know, I love a weird cask finish. This bottle actually retails for £93.95, which I appreciate is a lot of money. Let me explain. So I'm going to go through the tasting notes and then I will explain to you why I'm so blown away with this. So, on the nose. It's initially very light and fruity. Lots of blackcurrant, blackberry, strawberry almost. But it's balanced with a fantastic spiciness. Plums, raisins, cinnamon, chocolate orange in there as well. And like a dried tobacco, like cigar kind of note. Not quite smoky, but it's that nice balance of like it's really nice and fruity, but there's still like a dark underpinning spiciness, which doesn't leave it kind of obnoxiously sugary and sweet. I would say the nose is like very strong, but there's no spiritiness whatsoever. Onto the palate. Black currants. Right away, tons of like dark berries, so we've got loads of blackcurrant in there. A bit of a eucalyptus, almost mentholy note. Nice pepperiness, black pepper. A really nice tannic, drying, kind of really moorish spiciness. Spiciness is more of like a mouthfeel thing. Like it's a drying, bitter, tannic, prickly heat across the tongue. Almost a chilly heat. There is pomegranate. If you've ever had a pomegranate, you'll know it's slightly bitter, sweet, red berry flavour. I don't know, it's really hard to describe unless you've had a pomegranate, but there are notes of pomegranate. Onto the finish. Initially, quite dry and spicy. That black pepper kind of turns into a white pepperiness, and some of that tannic bitterness really hangs around. Like it really leaves like a drying sensation around the mouth. But as you breathe out and you kind of let the aromas and stuff build, there is a really big like blackberry jam like sweetness that hangs around, and it's not like it's not a flavour, it's that retronasal olfaction. It's like you can smell the flavour of the blackberry jam, but while the mouth has got this really like tannic, bitter, drying sensation going on. But that is not the end of it, because this is where the magic happens. Now, I'm not really a big water adder to whiskey. 60% is something that that kind of level of alcohol doesn't really bother me. But with this, I thought I'd give it a go. And I have no idea whether this is intentional or not. But with a little bit of water, well, actually quite a lot of water, this whiskey completely changes. The nose becomes juicier, more floral. Those blackcurrant kind of dark berries turn into bright red summer berries, loads of strawberry. The palate, all the eucalyptus notes really come forward. It becomes so much sweeter, so much brighter. That kind of effervescent bitterness goes away and leaves behind like a really nice mouth-coating sweetness. The finish, menthol, dark chocolate, like after eight dark chocolate, and almost like a hint of smokiness going on as well. This whiskey completely changes with water. Well, not completely changes, but people that I can see really hating this at its full strength, I can see completely changing their tune. Now, I was not over the moon with this whiskey. It's a £90 bottle of whiskey. That is, my kind of limits are 40 and 60 pounds. Anything over about 60, 65 pounds, it's got to be exceptional. And without water, this did not scream £90 whiskey. As soon as I put a few drops in, I spotted it, and I noticed how much sweeter it got. And I just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and putting more and more in until I got to a point where it was probably diluted by about a third. And that, for me, that was about the sweet spot, which is way more water than I'd ever add to whiskey. But in this case, absolutely worth it. This is one of the few times that I would ever recommend buying a bottle of whiskey with the intention of adding water to it. It changes in such a positive, wonderful way. It's something I highly recommend everyone try. And to be honest, it's a fantastic learning opportunity for me. I've always been of the mindset really that whiskey doesn't need water, and it's kind of a relatively trivial preference thing. Usually a lot to do with whether you can take the alcohol content or not. But this is one of those instances where, had I stuck to that mindset, I would have completely missed out on a whiskey that I'd gone from thinking was okay to genuinely absolutely loving. I have learnt my lesson. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do drop a like down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. Let me know down in the comments if you have tried anything from Milk and Honey. They seem to have quite an extensive range of whiskies, so I'm sure a few of you have tried one or two, and I'd love to know what you think of those, especially at the different price points. And on that note, slàinte mhath.